I'd like to talk about the terrible truth. Do you have something like this in your native language? In English, we have this term, the terrible truth. This term describes a developmental stage in which young children under the age of 3 throw temper tantrums quite often and say no to seemingly everything. If you have children, then I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't have children, then you have probably seen little ones screaming in the line at the grocery store or throwing some kind of temper tantrum at the toy store. This seems to be almost universal in that almost every child goes through this phase. I believe that the terrible truths are so common because as we learn our native language, we hit a point where we have very strong wants and desires, but we cannot communicate those wants and desire with verbal language. For example, my son right now, who is 2 years old, will yell no at almost anything if it doesn't please him. For example, if it's raining outside and we tell him, "Oh, it's raining, we can't go outside right now," he says no. This often makes us laugh because it is as if he's saying, "No, stop the rain." And of course, that's impossible. I believe that as language learners, we must also go through this phase in which we do not know how to communicate what we want or need in our target language, and as a result, we often get frustrating. I remember when I had learning Korean for just a couple of years. I was in Korea in a taxi trying to explain how to get to my house to the taxi driver. I could only make basic sentences and tell him left or right, straight, and due to my inability to properly communicate, it took us a very long time to find my house. I had many experiences like this with servers at restaurants, people in public, and most frustrating with close friends as well. Now, the fully developed native speaker in you must act like a parent, helping the little one learn to communicate what it means. In the previous episode of Jeremy's English Tips, I talked about this exactly point, how our fully developed mind in our native language has to take on the role of a guide or a parent to the frustrated runner inside of us. Now, the good news is that this page will pass, just as it does with our young children. Continued encouragement from parents as well as repetitive exposure to content in English, inevitably the young child will grow and improve their linguistic abilities until they no longer struggle so much. It is also very important to deliberately practice the things that you are weakest, and by doing so, you will find that your English learning both speeds up and becomes more enjoyable. Now I can tell you from my experience as a language teacher and runner that the number of hours you invest in your English learning will dictate how fast you grow and improve. So if you are working full time and you have children to take care of, then there may not be very much time to invest in your English. So although the learning may be slower for you at first, if you keep at it, success is inevitable. I would like to recommend that you listen to some of the earlier episodes of Jeremy's English Tips, in which I talk about repetitive listening and language exchange. These two methods have been very, very valuable for me and for my students. So I recommend checking out those episodes to learn more. We all know that childhood is not just a frustrating period. There are lots of fun time as well. The mind of child is full of wonder. The world is new and exciting. There are so many things to learn about and so many new skills to acquire. So I hope that if you ever find yourself struggling with English study, that you come back to Culips, turn on one of these episodes, and find a way to have fun with it again. Usually, when we are struggling, it is because we are putting too much pressure on ourselves, or we have high expectations. But remember, young children do not have such high expectation for themselves. They just do and play. So my advice is play more and have fun with English.